I never saw it coming. One day, we were planning a weekend trip together, and the next, Vanessa sat me down with that dreaded, cliched line. "We need to talk." She avoided my eyes, fidgeting with the ring she always wore on her right hand, a gift from me. My stomach twisted into knots before she even said the words. "I think we should break up." I sat there, stunned, my mouth slightly open, trying to process what she had just said. My heart pounded against my ribs, like it was trying to escape before she could do more damage. "Why?" I finally managed to croak out. She sighed, looking everywhere but at me. "I just don't think we're right for each other anymore." That wasn't an answer. That was an excuse. A rehearsed one. "Is there someone else?" I asked, and the way her shoulders tensed told me everything I needed to know. "It's not like that." She tried to argue, but the guilt was written all over her face. I felt sick. After 2 years together, she wasn't just leaving me. She was trading me in for someone else. I didn't even need to ask who. I already had my suspicions. Mark, that smug co-worker of hers, always finding excuses to text her late at night. I should have trusted my gut. Vanessa left that night, just walked out, leaving me drowning in a mix of anger, heartbreak, and humiliation. I stared at my phone, scrolling through pictures of us, laughing, holding hands, kissing. All of it was meaningless now. My mind spiraled. Did she ever really love me? Had I been a placeholder until something better came along? The pain turned to bitterness. I refused to be the sad, broken-hearted ex she could pity while she moved unhappily. No, I wanted her to see that I was just fine without her. No, better. Happier. That's when the idea hit me. I needed someone to help me sell the illusion. Not just any girl, though. It had to be someone Vanessa wouldn't immediately suspect as a setup. My mind flicked through the possibilities before settling on one name, Lila. Lila worked in my office, 2 cubicles away from mine. She was effortlessly cool, always dressed like she was about to step into an indie movie. We were friendly, joked around at work, and she'd never been involved in my relationship with Vanessa. Best of all, she had a mischievous streak. If anyone would be down for a ridiculous, petty scheme, it was her. I sent her a text. "Hey, weird favor to ask. Meet me for coffee." She replied within minutes. "Is this a help me hide a body kind of favor or a pretend to be my girlfriend kind of favor?" I laughed despite myself. The second one. At the cafe the next morning, Lila leaned across the table, stirring her latte, eyes twinkling with amusement. "So, let me get this straight. You want me to be your fake girlfriend for social media?" I nodded. "For a month. Just 1 picture a day. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just enough to make Vanessa think I've moved on." Lila smirked. "You do realize how childish this is, right?" "Completely," I admitted. "But it'll drive her nuts. And honestly, I need the distraction." She took a long sip of her coffee, pretending to consider. Then, with a grin, she said, "All right, but I have conditions." "Conditions? 1. I get to pick some of the pictures. I don't want to look bad online, just because you have a vendetta. 2. You buy me coffee every morning for the duration of this ridiculous scheme. 3. If this backfires spectacularly, I reserve the right to say, 'I told you so.'" I laughed. "Deal." She reached across the table and shook my hand. Let the games begin. That evening, we met up at a local park. The plan was simple, casual but affectionate. Lila wore a cozy sweater, her hair in loose waves, while I kept it simple with a hoodie and jeans. We found a scenic spot under the golden glow of the setting sun. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. She leaned into me. And just like that, we looked like a couple. I snapped a photo, added a caption. "Some things fall apart so better things can fall together." Posted. I refreshed the page obsessively. The likes started trickling in. Comments too. "Damn, that was fast," one friend joked. "She's gorgeous," another wrote. And then, the one I was waiting for, Vanessa saw it. She didn't comment, didn't like it, but she viewed my story. That was enough. A smirk tugged at my lips. Game on. The first post did exactly what I wanted it to. Vanessa saw it. She didn't comment, didn't like it, but that was fine. Just knowing she had looked was enough to keep me motivated. That tiny little viewed notification felt like a win. She wasn't ignoring me completely. She had taken the time to click, to see what I was up to, and maybe, just maybe, she was wondering why I looked so happy without her. The next morning, I met Lila at the coffee shop, where she was already sitting by the window, sipping on an oat milk latte. She had her phone in one hand and a mischievous glint in her eyes. As soon as I sat down, she held up the screen for me to see. "People are talking," she said with a smirk. I glanced at her phone and saw the comments under last night's picture. Damn, that was fast. "Okay, she's gorgeous. You upgraded, my guy." "Wait, weren't you just with Vanessa?" I scrolled through, satisfied. Some were skeptical, but most seemed convinced. Even better, Vanessa had viewed it. She saw it again, I said, trying to keep my voice casual. Lila leaned back in her seat, crossing her arms. "And how do we know she actually cares? Maybe she's just curious." "Curiosity means she's paying attention," I pointed out. "And if she's paying attention, she's wondering." Lila chuckled, tapping her nails against her coffee cup. "All right, I'll admit it's fun watching this unfold. So what's next, mastermind? We gotta up the ante, right?" I took a sip of my coffee, pretending to think. I had been up half the night coming up with ideas, but I wanted to make it seem like I wasn't too obsessed. I was thinking today we'd do something casual but intimate. Maybe a selfie in my car, you wearing my hoodie, something like that. Lila wrinkled her nose. "Ugh, that's so cliché." "Yeah, but clichés work," I argued, "especially when it comes to making an ex jealous." She exhaled dramatically, but couldn't hide her amused smirk. "Fine, but I get to pick the filter. And you owe me lunch for this one." "Deal." A little later, we sat in my car, parked in an empty lot. I pulled my hoodie over Lila's head, watching as she adjusted the sleeves to fit her smaller frame. She smoothed out the fabric and looked at me. "All right, how do you want to do this?" Classic, leaning into you like I'm totally smitten pose. I nodded. "Yeah, something natural. Like we're just relaxing together." Lila rolled her eyes but smiled as she scooted closer, her head resting lightly against my cheek. The warmth of her skin against mine was unexpected, but I ignored the feeling and focused on the plan. I snapped a few shots, making sure the lighting was just right before choosing the best one. Sunday drives just got a whole lot better. I hit post. Almost immediately, the engagement began rolling in. Likes, comments, fire emojis. People were eating it up. My phone buzzed continuously as notifications flooded in. I leaned back in my seat, satisfied. But what mattered most was the single notification I had been waiting for. "Vanessa viewed your story." I stared at the screen, a smirk tugging at the corner of my lips. "She saw it," I told Lila. Lila scrolled through the comments, laughing. "Wow, people really believe this. How long do you think before Vanessa snaps?" I drummed my fingers on the steering wheel, thinking, "Give it a week." Lila raised an eyebrow. "You really think she cares that much?" I hesitated. Did she? I had no way of knowing for sure. Maybe she was just being nosy. Maybe she was bored. But something told me Vanessa wouldn't be able to ignore this forever. And I was right. 3 days later, it happened. I was lying on my couch, absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone, when her name popped up at the top of my screen. A text message. "Vanessa, wow. That was fast." I sat up immediately, my heart hammering. She took the bait. Game on. I stared at Vanessa's message for a long moment, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. 3 little words, wow. That was fast. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to tell me she wasn't indifferent. Enough to prove that my little scheme was working. Lila's voice rang in my head, from our last conversation. How do we know she actually cares? This was how. She cared enough to break the silence. I considered my options. I could respond immediately, act casual, pretend like her message meant nothing. But no, that wasn't the right move. That would be too easy for her. I needed her to feel it, to wonder if I was happy, if I had truly moved on without a second thought. So I did the hardest thing I could. I left her on read. It was agonizing, knowing she was on the other end of the screen, probably staring at her phone, waiting for a response. Maybe she was even regretting sending it. realizing that by reaching out, she had given me the upper hand. I went about my day pretending not to care, but the truth was, my mind kept circling back to her message. I imagined her sitting next to Mark, gripping her phone, trying to play it cool while wondering if I'd reply. Maybe she was checking my profile, looking for hints, trying to figure out how serious things were with Lila. She had no idea how far I was willing to take this. Lila and I met for lunch that afternoon, as promised. I slid the tray onto our table and sat across from her. "All right," she said between bites of her sandwich. "Tell me everything. Any updates?" I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms with a grin. She texted me. Lila nearly choked on her drink. She wiped her mouth and gaped at me. "No. Freaking. Wait. What did she say?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the message. She stared at it, then back at me, then at the message again. A slow, delighted grin spread across her face. "Oh, she is so not okay right now." "Right," I smirked, sliding the phone back into my pocket. "But wait, what did you say back?" I popped a fry into my mouth and shrugged. "Nothing. Left her on read." Lila gasped and pointed at me dramatically. "You monster." I laughed. I figured it'd mess with her head more that way. Lila nodded in approval. "Oh, absolutely. She's probably spiraling right now." "I love it." I exhaled, the satisfaction settling in. Now we just need to take it up a notch. Lila tapped her fingers against the table thoughtfully. How do we really make her sweat?" I already had an idea. Couples activities. Lila's eyes widened in amusement. Like full-on relationship vibes. Exactly. Date nights, matching outfits, inside jokes, stuff that makes it look like we're serious. Lila smirked. "Ooh, I like where this is going. So what's next?" I pulled out my phone. "Bowling. Tonight." Later that evening, Lila and I met at the bowling alley, laughing as we laced up our shoes. The place was packed with couples, families, and groups of friends. The neon lights and the sound of rolling balls mixed with upbeat pop music set the perfect mood. We grabbed a lane, and I set my phone up at an angle, ready to capture the perfect shot. Lila picked up a ball, smirking. "You know, if this were a real date, I'd totally be hustling you right now." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, you think you can beat me?" She winked. "I know I can." I took the bait, and soon we were deep into a playful rivalry, laughing as we tried to one-up each other. Finally, I grabbed my phone and snapped the perfect moment. Lila mid-laugh, her body leaning into mine as I held up my hands in mock surrender. The chemistry was undeniable. I added a caption. "Getting absolutely destroyed in bowling, but at least I have good company." I hit post. Then I waited. Within minutes, the comments rolled in. "She's a keeper, man. Y'all are seriously the cutest. Look at you, all happy and thriving." But the real victory was when I checked my story views. Vanessa had seen it. And this time, she didn't just lurk. She sent another message. "Vanessa, wow. You guys are really moving fast." "Huh." I smirked. This time, I wouldn't ignore her. But I wasn't going to play into her hands, either. I crafted my response carefully, keeping it short and breezy. "Me? Yeah, it's funny how things work out." I sent it and locked my phone, my pulse quickening. I could practically hear her frustration through the screen. The next few days followed a pattern. More posts, more strategic moves, and more reactions from Vanessa. Lila and I kept upping the ante, movie nights, ice cream dates, even a fake lazy Sunday picture where she wore my hoodie again. Every time, Vanessa saw them. And every time, her silence grew louder. Until one night, I got a different kind of message. Not a text. A call. Vanessa's name lit up my screen, and my heart pounded as I stared at it. Lila, sitting beside me on the couch, glanced at my phone and raised an eyebrow. Well, well, well. Looks like someone finally cracked. I let it ring a few times before answering, keeping my voice calm. "Hey." There was a pause on the other end. Then a sharp intake of breath. "So you and Lila, huh?" Vanessa's voice was carefully neutral, but I could hear the strain underneath. I smiled to myself. Game. Set. Match. I took a slow breath, steadying myself before answering Vanessa's question. So you and Lila, huh? Her voice was even, but I could hear the edge behind it, the carefully disguised tension, the forced nonchalance. She wanted me to say something that would confirm what she was already thinking. She wanted to hear hesitation, doubt, a sign that I wasn't really over her. Instead, I leaned back against the couch, keeping my voice light. Yeah, I said simply. Me and Lila. A pause. Long enough for me to imagine her sitting on the other end of the line, biting her lip, processing the reality of what I just said. Finally, she let out a small, humorless laugh. That's surprising. I smirked, even though she couldn't see me. Is it? Another pause. I could tell she was choosing her words carefully. I mean, yeah. I just thought you'd take more time to, process things. Process things. I almost laughed. Vanessa was the one who dumped me, who moved on first. And now, she was acting like I was the one who needed time to recover. The hypocrisy was almost funny. I glanced at Lila, who was watching me intently from the other end of the couch, her legs tucked under her. She tilted her head, mouthing what she's saying. I gave her a small shrug. I'd take time, I told Vanessa, keeping my tone casual. And honestly, I didn't expect it either. But sometimes, things just click, Another silence. This one stretched even longer. I could feel it happening, the shift. Vanessa was struggling with this. She had been watching from the sidelines, waiting for me to fall apart, to stay stuck on her. Instead, I was thriving. I had someone new, someone who made me laugh, someone who looked better in my hoodie than she ever did. And she couldn't stand it. Finally, she spoke again, her voice softer now. Are you happy? It was such a simple question. 3 words. But the weight of it was heavy. I should have said yes immediately. That would have been the smart move. Instead, I hesitated for just half a second, long enough for her to catch it. Shit. Lila noticed, too. She shot me a look, eyes narrowing slightly. I cleared my throat and recovered. Yeah, I am. Vanessa didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice was quieter. That's good. I'm happy for you. She wasn't. We both knew it, but I played along. Thanks. I appreciate that. The conversation lingered for another minute, filled with awkward small talk, her asking about work, me asking about her family. But the tension remained, thick and unspoken. Finally, she sighed. I should go. All right, I said easily. Take care. I hung up, exhaling slowly as I set my phone down. Lila was still watching me. Dude, she said flatly. That pause. I groaned. I know. She shook her head, smirking. You totally slipped. She caught me off guard. Lila rolled her eyes. Uh-huh. Or maybe you're not as over her as you think. I frowned at her. That's not it. She leaned back, stretching her legs out. Well, whatever the case, she's definitely spiraling now. I nodded, running a hand through my hair. Yeah, she's feeling it. And that meant I had to keep pushing. Over the next few days, I made sure Vanessa had plenty to see. Lila and I staged another date, this time at a rooftop bar, laughing under string lights with cocktails in hand. I posted a short video of her feeding me a bite of cake, captioned, I guess I can share sometimes. Each time, Vanessa viewed the post. But this time, she didn't just lurk. She started reacting. Not directly, of course. She was too proud for that. Instead, she began posting more with Mark. Selfies at dinner, boomerangs of them clinking glasses, a mirror picture with his arm wrapped around her waist. It was so obviously a reaction to me that I almost felt bad. Almost. Lila noticed, too. She's fighting back, she said one evening as we scrolled through Instagram. Classic damage control. I smirked. It's not working. And it wasn't, because no matter how many pictures she posted, no matter how hard she tried to sell her happiness, there was one crucial difference. Vanessa had never felt the need to do this before. She was losing control. And then, she made her biggest mistake. It was a Friday night when it happened. Lila and I had just wrapped up another date. A fake movie night at my place, complete with matching blankets and a staged Polaroid picture of us cuddled up on the couch. It was late, past midnight, when my phone rang. Vanessa. Lila, sitting beside me, raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Again? I hesitated, staring at the screen. She's drunk. Obviously. Lila folded her arms. Are you going to answer? I should have ignored it. That was the smart thing to do. But curiosity got the better of me. I answered. Hello. There was a pause, then a deep sigh. When she spoke, her words were slow and slightly slurred. I don't know why I'm calling. I leaned back against the couch, exchanging a glance with Lila. You tell me. Vanessa let out a small, breathy laugh. I guess I don't know. Another pause. I miss talking to you. Lila's eyebrows shot up. Oh, this is getting good. I forced a chuckle. Vanessa, it's late. I know, she mumbled. I keep seeing you with her. Bingo. And, I prompted, playing dumb. Another deep breath. And it's weird. I smirked. Why is it weird? She didn't answer right away. Then, softly, she admitted. Because you were mine first. For a split second, I felt something stir in my chest. A flicker of satisfaction, of vindication. She wasn't over me. She was cracking. Lila could hear everything, and she mouthed, She's losing it. I nodded slightly, my mind racing. Vanessa sighed again. She stopped, her voice catching. Never mind. I waited, but she didn't say anything else. Vanessa, I said after a moment. Yeah, I exhaled slowly, keeping my tone even. You should go to bed. A pause. Then, in the smallest voice, she whispered, Okay. The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long time. Lila nudged me. Okay, now what? I locked my screen, a slow smile forming. Now, I said, we finish what we started. The next morning, I woke up to 3 text messages from Vanessa. Vanessa, sorry about last night. Vanessa, I shouldn't have called. Vanessa, I was just drunk. Ignore me. Classic damage control. She was trying to backtrack, pretending like the call had been nothing, like she hadn't let her real feelings slip. But I wasn't buying it. I showed the texts to Lila when we met for coffee later that day. Lila smirked, stirring her latte. She's panicking. Obviously, I said, scrolling through my phone. She's trying to play it cool. Lila tapped her nails against the table thoughtfully. So what's the move? Do we acknowledge it, or let her sweat? I leaned back in my chair, considering. I wanted to keep the pressure on, to make her regret leaving me, to push her just a little further. We act like it never happened, I decided. That'll drive her crazy. Lila grinned. Oh, I like that. That night, I posted another picture. This one was different. Instead of another playful couple's moment, I went for something deeper, something intimate. I took a close-up shot of my hand resting on Lila's knee, her fingers loosely intertwined with mine. The kind of casual, natural touch that screamed comfort, familiarity, belonging. No posed smiles, no over-the-top PDA. Just quiet intimacy. The caption, feels right. That was it. No emojis, no extra fluff. Just 2 words. And then I waited. Vanessa saw it within 10 minutes. This time, she didn't just text me. She called. I picked up, keeping my voice neutral. Hello. She hesitated before speaking. Hey. I could already tell. She was trying to sound normal, but there was tension beneath the surface. What's up? I asked, like I had no idea why she was calling. A pause. Then, can we talk? I glanced at Lila, who was watching me intently from across the couch. She raised an eyebrow, silently asking what now. I shifted the phone slightly. We're talking. She let out a short laugh, but it wasn't amused. I mean really talk. I kept my tone light. What's on your mind, Vanessa? She exhaled sharply. I don't get it. I frowned. Don't get what? Another pause. Then, with a quiet edge, she said, How you moved on so fast. Bingo. I let her words hang in the air for a second before answering. I don't know. I said casually. It just happened. She scoffed. Right. Just happened. I could hear the frustration creeping into her voice now. I leaned forward slightly. Vanessa, you broke up with me. Remember? She went quiet. And now, I continued, you're acting like I did something wrong by not sitting around waiting for you. Still, she said nothing. I pushed a little further. You chose Mark. You moved on first. She inhaled sharply. It's not about that. Then what is it about? I asked, letting a little edge slip into my voice. Another pause. Then softer. I just didn't think you'd be this happy without me. I closed my eyes for a second. There it is. This wasn't about Lila. This wasn't even about me. This was about control. About the fact that I wasn't miserable without her. That I had rebuilt my life. And made it look better than before. And it was killing her. I glanced at Lila. She was watching me closely, waiting to see how I'd play this. I exhaled slowly, then said, I think you should figure out why that bothers you so much. Silence. I could almost hear her trying to come up with something to say, some way to flip the situation back in her favor. But there was nothing left to say. Finally, she murmured, yeah, maybe. Her voice was small, defeated. I let the silence stretch for another beat before saying, Take care, Vanessa. And then I hung up. For a long moment, I just sat there, staring at my phone. Lila nudged me. You okay? I nodded slowly. Yeah. She studied my face. You don't sound convinced. I exhaled, rubbing a hand over my jaw. It's just weird. I spent so long wanting her to feel this way. And now that she does. Lila tilted her head. It doesn't feel as good as you thought it would? I hesitated. Then finally, not really. Lila was quiet for a second. Then, with a small smirk, she said, Well, on the bright side, you definitely won. I chuckled, shaking my head. Yeah, I did. But as I stared at my phone, Vanessa's name still lingering on my recent calls, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had lost something too. Something I couldn't quite name. The conversation with Vanessa should have been the perfect ending. I had gotten what I wanted. She was spiraling, regretting her choices, realizing that I wasn't the guy who would wait around for her to figure out what she wanted. I had won. So why didn't it feel like a victory? For the next few days, I kept up appearances. Lila and I still staged a couple more pictures, just to keep the illusion going. But something was different. I wasn't checking to see if Vanessa had viewed my posts. I wasn't waiting for another call or text. I wasn't replaying our last conversation in my head, analyzing every word. Instead, I found myself thinking about Lila. Not about our fake relationship, but about her. How she always stole the last bite of my food without asking. How she made dumb little faces when she concentrated. How she drummed her fingers against the steering wheel when her favorite songs came on. And most of all, how easy everything felt when she was around. It wasn't an act anymore, at least not for me. One night, we were at my apartment, going through our usual routine, scrolling through our phones, laughing at random memes, talking about nothing and everything at the same time. Lila stretched out on my couch, yawning. So, what's next? I glanced at her. What do you mean? She turned her head, looking at me. With Vanessa. She's cracked. She knows she messed up. Are we keeping this up? I hesitated. The old me, the one from a month ago, would have said yes without a second thought, would have wanted to squeeze every last drop of satisfaction from this. But now, I shook my head. No, I think we're done. Lila studied me for a second. You sure? I nodded. Yeah. She smiled, stretching her arms behind her head. Damn, I was really starting to enjoy being your hot fake girlfriend. I laughed. You did play the part well. She wiggled her eyebrows. Obviously. For a moment, we just looked at each other, something unspoken hanging in the air between us. She shifted slightly, suddenly looking nervous. Can I ask you something? She said. Yeah. She bit her lip. If this wasn't, an act, would have been so bad. My heart skipped. I swallowed, feeling like the ground was shifting beneath me. Lila. She sat up, suddenly flustered. Forget I said anything. No, I said quickly. I don't want to forget. She looked at me, waiting. I took a deep breath. It wouldn't have been bad at all. A small smile tugged at her lips. Oh, I reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. In fact, I think it would have been kind of great. Her breath hitched slightly, and for the first time in weeks, I wasn't thinking about Vanessa. I was thinking about her. And when I leaned in, this time for real, she didn't pull away. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Vanessa. Vanessa, can we talk? For the first time, I didn't feel a twist in my stomach when I saw her name. I didn't feel the urge to reply right away. I looked over at Lila, still asleep beside me, her hair messy, her breathing soft and steady. And I smiled, because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't looking backward. I was finally moving forward, and I didn't need to pretend anymore.